example did you write?
One time I wanted to go out and my parents didn't let me, so I lied to them and I told them that I was gonna go somewhere else.
Okay. So what did she do? How did she lied? Okay. Jonathan?
Same as my aunt, except it wasn't homework.
Okay, so you disobeyed your parents? Anybody else? Have any of you guys actually fought?
No.
Oh,
Physical?
yeah.
Brianna? Okay, so physical. No, she raised her hand, that's why. So physical fighting, right?
Yeah.
Anybody have something else here? How else do people
Boycott.
resist? Oh, what do you mean, a teacher? What would you do?
Talking.
Talking back?
Verbally.
Okay. Talking back or through words?
Unions.
Unions? Okay, now we're getting a little bit. Okay, now we're thinking in bigger terms, right? So this is maybe individual, right? This is you. Now, as a whole, how do people fight resistance? So Nick brought up unions.
Secret meetings. Secret groups. Meetings.
Secret groups?
Secret meetings.
Secret meetings?
What about like a community?
Okay, so by joining clubs or groups.
Protesting.
Okay.
Like,
Protesting.
Guerrilla warfare.
What did you say?
Guerrilla warfare.
What about like a strike?
Warfare?
Guerrilla warfare.
Guerrilla warfare? Okay, you said strike? Yeah, that could go under protesting.
Why do you keep getting?
What does what say? Guerrilla. Oh, guerrilla warfare. Nick, can you explain what that is?
I know what it is.
Do you remember? We kind of talked about it when we were talking about.
the Spain, when they fought in Spain,
When
right?
groups go against the
That's one of them, yeah, one of the examples. That
government.
On World War I too, right?
Mm-hmm.
The little
The Spanish guerrillas, yeah. Guerrilla warfare are small groups who are usually not soldiers, but they fight against soldiers.
like rebel.
Like rebels, exactly. So they use tactics that aren't very common in warfare. So soldiers, will go on the front lines and they'll fight with guns, and there's a specific way that they fight a war that's usually given to them by their military leaders. These guys are usually small bands of people, and they hide. For example, if there's a forest, they'll hide in the forest, and they'll, kind of jump out and surprise the military and attack them that way. Or they'll plant bombs or traps, things like that. Those are guerrilla warfare. Guerrilleros or guerrilla. That's what guerrilla warfare is.
Nice.
All right, you do not need to write on this. Is there anybody who did not get a copy of the poem? Question?
Wasn't yesterday she was talking about how some Jews did guerrilla warfare?
Some of the Jews did guerrilla warfare. Yeah, definitely.
But they didn't accomplish anything, right?
What do you mean?
Like they didn't do it like.
No, but they did accomplished
They
what?
accomplished what they
What do you mean by they didn't accomplish anything?
Like they didn't save themselves, right? Because at the end they got killed.
Some of them did, some of them actually survived. In the next 2 weeks, you guys are going to be watching 2 movies. Okay, one is called Jacob the Liar. Has anybody seen that movie? Okay, perfect. And the other one's called Defiance.
Oh.
The second one, Defiance, is about the Bielski brothers, and they were 4 brothers who escaped to the forest, and they actually fought against the Nazis. And I think 2 of the brothers did survive. Okay.
But wasn't that against their religion, something like that?
Against their religion?
No.
No, they're
I'm
saving
not sure.
Like
I don't
kill
think-
someone.
It was more like a self-defense thing. Yeah, I'm sure in, you know, many religions, you aren't supposed to kill, but in this case, you know, we're talking about mostly self-defense. If they didn't kill, then they would be the ones who died. Okay.
That lady, she didn't have like first cousin.
Right.
They killed her.
Okay, so let's think, most of the resistance that we think about is automatically physical resistance, right?
No.
But this author here is talking about different forms of resistance. So see if you can pick up on some of these forms. Okay. Does anybody want to start? Go ahead, Sergio.
There were those who escaped to the forest, who crawled through the sewers, who jumped on back of trains. There were those who smuggled messages, who smuggled dynamite, inside bread loaves, inside matchboxes, inside corpses. There were those who were shoemakers, who put nails into the boots of German soldiers. There were those who wrote poetry, who put on plays, who taught the children. There were those who fed each other.
Okay. So I want you to take 1 minute, and on the sheet of paper that you guys have out, I want you to write 3 ways that people resisted that are not up here. Based on what you read on the poem. So 3 ways that people resisted based on what you read from the poem. You can write it on the bubble chart. Okay, you've already started. Alright. Who wants to give me one? Raise your hand. Who wants to give me one? Raise your hand. Somebody who hasn't said anything. John.
I put running away or escaping.
Okay, escaping. Good. Chantel, can you give me one?
They would send messages to each other.
Okay, secret messages. Good. Gladys?
They're like, I don't know how to say it, but like they're slaves, like that word for like the German.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Like they're slaves.
Like, where did you get that from the poem?
Yeah.
Where?
For the shoemakers with like nails and boots.
Okay, so what we're asking is how are they going against the Germans?
Oh.
So you're on the right track. How did they go against the Germans in that little area? What did they do?
Like physical fighting though.
Is it like physical fighting?
What?
Well, putting nails into the shoes.
First of all, what are we referring to? Because it might not be clear what we're referring to. What part are you questioning right now? Read that section.
There were those who were shoemakers
There were those who were shoemakers. Keep going.
who put nails into the boots of German soldiers.
Who put nails into the boots of German soldiers. Is that a form of resistance?
Yes.
How? Sabotage. Okay? How many of you guys have heard of that word sabotage? What does it mean to sabotage something?
Make things
Justin?
work.
Like, just making sure that it doesn't, like,
It doesn't go as they planned it.
Okay, it doesn't go as they planned. So what was the original plan? For those people to do what?
What they're told and go. Or
We're talking about the shoemakers. What is it? Somebody said it. To make shoes, right? Had they sabotaged that though?
put nails to those.
By putting the nails in them. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So they, through sabotage, they put the nails in the shoes so when the Germans went to put them on, ow, right? It was like a little, What else? There's more.
They
Edgar?
taught the children.
Taught the children, good.
Like,
They were actually, Jews were actually forbidden in the ghettos to have schools set up or to teach religion or things like that. But they resisted that and they still taught the children. Nick?
They would write poetry and plays.
Good. So art, write poetry, plays. Justin?
Smuggling?
Smuggling, okay, so whether they're smuggling notes or supplies, weapons. You can put weapons, supplies, notes. I know our tour guide talked about this. There was a huge resistance movement in the Warsaw Ghetto. Okay, you all have heard of the Warsaw Ghetto, right? It was one of the bigger ghettos in Poland. And when the ghetto was finally evacuated, there were a few hundred people left over. Those people who were left, they actually resisted, and they actually were able to put up a fight for a month. So even though these people died, right, they fought. So they died fighting. And a lot of the things that they had they were able to collect was through smuggling. So they smuggled weapons, supplies, and they were able to accumulate enough to actually defend the ghetto for a month. When you're comparing just a few hundred people to the German military, that's a big deal. That they were able to hold the Germans off for so long. That was quite an accomplishment. Okay. Any others? Based on the poem? Alright. So here's what I want you guys to write on your paper. This is the next question. How did Jacob resist? So write that down. This is question number 2. Right underneath the chart. How did Jacob resist?
Jacob.
Right now.
Oh.
We're watching Jacob Alive.
Okay. So the first movie you're going to watch is Resistance, but it's not overt. It's not something, you're not going to see them physically fighting the Germans. Okay, that's the second movie. That's Defiance, where they actually physically fight the Germans. Okay? The resistance in this movie is a little bit more hidden. And by the end of the movie, you should be able to tell me what that is. Okay, because it becomes more and more obvious as you're watching the movie. I'm going to stop the movie a few times so that we can go back and talk about it. And make sure you guys are following along. Alright, let me just clarify. What has Jacob just found out?
That
The
Russians
Soviets are really close.
The Russians are in Poland, the Soviets are in Poland. Okay, they were Soviets at that time, right? It was the Soviet Union. So the Soviets are in Poland. Why is this important?
You could be free.
They're
Yeah?
trying to help.
Justin?
They're trying to help.
They're trying to help. Okay. What had happened to Poland under Hitler and Stalin's non-aggression pact?
Yeah, one was kicked half and then the other.
Okay, so it was divided in half, right? The Soviet Union was to keep the East and Germany was to keep the West, but then what happens? What does Hitler do? Nick?
Backstab.
Hitler backstabs Stalin and takes control of Poland.
Very
All
good.
of
So he backstabs Stalin and he takes all of Poland. Okay? Jacob is currently in a obviously German-controlled ghetto. And if the Soviets are coming, what are they going to do with this ghetto?
Free them?
They're going to free them.
Or destroy.
Right? So Jacob has just learned this information. What is important is what he does with it. Okay? And he's learned it by accident, right?
What are you doing here? The sentry